So, infinite money glitch. I was fortunate enough to learn this as a youngin'. I was able to learn this while working at Walgreens, making $8.25 an hour in the photo department. And I was able to, a part of it I learned from my great accounting teacher I had in college, who was very fortunate to have that gentleman, right? And part of it was just kind of like researching, other places as well. And I figured out kind of this infinite money glitch, and I'm not the only one to figure this out. Like basically almost everybody in the top 1% figures this out over time, okay? So you have your job or your business, right? Throws you off income. Boom, your money comes in, right? Now, what you want to do is your expenses need to be focused on things that appreciate or help you make more money. That's where you really want to focus your expenses. The more you can do that, the better off you're going to be, essentially. The more your expenses go towards stuff that does not help you make more money, the more your money goes toward things that don't appreciate over time, the more you're going to make your life harder and harder when it comes to the money game, right? The more you focus on investing into products, services, whatever that help you make more money or assets that appreciate over time, the better off you're going to be long term, essentially, right? So for me personally, if I look at my own life, where's a ton of my money go? Real estate, right? Mortgages on 3 different homes, the one I live in, plus my 2 real estate investment properties, right? Software. I mean, 1000xstocks.com, it's not for free. Like that's a very expensive product I've been able to build out, and I have a great developer team involved in that, right? But it's very expensive. I also pay for a ton of other softwares. I probably pay for my guess is at least 10 different softwares every month, right? So a lot of times I'll sign up for like a yearly plan or a multi-year plan with a lot of software, so I get like a bigger discount essentially. But there's probably like 10 different softwares I pay for. It's a lot. But I can tell you what I pay for all those, it's well worth it. It's well worth it. None of those softwares, like if I spend $500 a year on a software, it saves me or makes me a lot more than $500. I can tell you that much, okay? I spend a lot of money on people, right, for my real estate. So my real estate investment properties, they have landscapers, they have people that clean the pools and all those sorts of things, right? Same thing with my own home. Anytime there's a problem, I get it fixed right away because these are assets that appreciate over the long term, and I need to keep them in great shape all the time, right? I pay for the fastest internet. I'm not going to use some slow, laggy internet because it's going to save me $20 a month. No, like the world's on the internet nowadays. I want to load up 1000X. I want to load it up now. I don't want to wait let me just wait an extra 10 seconds each time or 5 seconds. No. Okay, because you add up all those seconds you have to wait all the time, it adds up to a lot, right? Don't cheap out on things that help you build your health or build your wealth. There's a lot of places you can be cheap in life, right? If you don't want to eat at the super expensive restaurant on your anniversary and you want to, trade down a little bit, okay, fair play, right? But I could tell you when it comes to your health or your wealth, you don't cheap out on those sorts of things because your health and your wealth is everything in this game. It's everything, right? So that's where you want to really focus your expenses. Where a lot of people get caught up into is they add a lot of expenses to their life that ultimately is not helping in these sorts of situations, and they set themselves up where they're not able to get to higher levels because they spend so much money on things that are not helping them make more money, right? Or on things that appreciate. So then once our expenses go through, from there we're going to have a certain amount of money left over, right? Now, that money needs to go into stocks, it needs to go into new real estate properties, it needs to, if you're going to put any on the sideline for cash, it needs to go into something that's yielding like 4% plus, which can be treasuries. It can be high yield savings accounts, high yield CD accounts, okay? It needs to be generating you money, cash flowing, right? So that's exactly what I do from there, right? Then from there, you should make money on your stocks. Like if I invest in a stock, I expect to make money 80% plus of the time, right? So over time, you're going to take stock gains here and there, right? And hopefully some good profits. I know I've taken some amazing profits this year. Dividend money is going to pour in, especially as your portfolio builds bigger and bigger and bigger. The dividends get more and more substantial. I estimate that likely within the next few years, I can start making $100,000 plus a year in just dividend income. And that's going to likely be in the next few years if you add up all my different portfolios and all the dividends that will be incoming, right? Rent's coming in if you have real estate properties. From there, right, all that money, you pour that money right back into stocks, real estate, and cash yield. Now what you have essentially done is you've created your own money glitch, separated from the job, business, and expense profile, because then that goes right back down here, right? And then you get right back into stock gains, dividends income, rents come in, right? Pour it right back in, and you get into this beautiful part of the money glitch where essentially that just starts throwing off insane amounts of money that then, if you want to go buy fancy homes and fancy cars and all those sorts of things, you can do that once you've built up to a substantial level. And I can tell you my first 2 or 3 years of doing this infinite money glitch, you're not going to see a lot from it. Not in your first, 2 or 3 years. I knew I was on the right track, but it's not like you really start to see a lot, right? When I started reaching like 22, 23, 24 years old, I started to feel the effects of the infinite money glitch, and I was like, oh damn, like okay, like we got something here. Like I'm like all that work I was putting in over the last several years, it felt like I wasn't really seeing much. Now it's starting to add up. Then my late 20s started to feel it even more. Now I'm 35 years old, and I start to feel it a lot more nowadays. I'm like, oh man, when I take a profit on a stock, many times it's tens of thousands of dollars of profits at a time, if not, 100K plus. The dividend money is starting to really pile up. The rent's coming in, right? And then, if I'm fortunate enough to be here another decade, can you imagine when I'm 45 years old, like the amounts of money that will be incoming and whatnot, right? In that infinite money glitch. So you got to understand whatever level you're at. I don't care if you're, make $825 an hour like I used to, or whether you make, $180,000 a year. You got to understand that's how you structure to essentially create this infinite money glitch that over a 10-year span, 15-year span, 20-year span, you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, like this thing I did here like paid off huge, right? And if you build it enough, eventually the amounts of money start to become so silly you couldn't even spend the money in your lifetime, essentially, right? Which kind of creates a beautiful thing, because as a human, I think we should enjoy life, right? And, enjoy the homes we want to live in and the cars we want to drive and, the lifestyle we want to have and the vacations and see the world and those sorts of things and enjoy our life. But additionally, if you can, when you go to leave this place, right, if you can have a substantial nest egg, I think that's beautiful, because you can either create generational wealth, or you can give that money to a lot of charitable causes that you see as, maybe there were some injustices in the world while you were here and you want to help fix those, right? And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Like, I think it should be every human's goal to make this place a better place than when you got here. And I think if we're doing that, we're winning, right? And so, I just want everybody to understand that's how the game's played. And over 10, 15, 20 years of playing this game this way, you start to look back and you're like, woo-wee, like, did I create some wealth there, right? So that's how it's done right there. I hope you guys got a lot of value out of just that portion of the video. We're about to talk stocks and all that, but I just think that's so important that everybody understands that part of the game, okay? Hey, it's Jeremy. I hope you really enjoyed that clip here today. Listen, there are 3 main areas a long-term investor has to understand. You have to understand financial statements, income statements, balance sheets, cash flows. You have to understand and master portfolio management. And you have to have the ability to project what is possible for companies in the coming years. Bearish scenarios, bullish scenarios. All these skills can be learned, and that's the good news. And I'm still just a regular guy who's out here. I just have a lot of passion for the market. I've learned a lot over the last 15 years. I had a tremendous amount of success, and I have a dedication to teaching people everything I have learned in the past 15 years. I can do it. You can do it too. You can learn all that's required to become a great investor in my private group. The application is going to be down there in the description area. You can click on that, fill out an application, join us in the private group, get access to all my best course curriculums, teaching you everything that I got in my head, and you get ability to join our 6-figure, 7-figure Hall of Fame. We have such a tremendous Discord. It is incredible. So once again, description area down there, there's a link. You can apply to join my private group in there. Now, new stock I want to add to this public account is this one. It is AMD, $136 stock. I just bought some shares recently. I'm sure you guys saw a video from a few days ago. I bought some shares in, my Ally account, but I haven't bought anything in the public account yet, which is through Fidelity, right? I would love to add an AMD position here, because here's what I'm looking at for AMD. I think AMD from 2025 to 2028 could easily put up an average of 30% revenue growth. Some of the years are going to grow faster than that. Some years maybe a little bit slower. But I think 30% average for revenue for AMD's, I think that's easy peasy lemon squeezy. So that puts their revenue around $73 billion in 2028. As far as net income, I think they'll be able to do about a 40% clip there. And so that puts them at net income margins about 15%, which is like a mile and a half away from NVIDIA. NVIDIA's like ridiculous, like 50% net margins right now. It's insane, right? But since AMD is a chip company, they usually, they kind of get dinged for that, unlike SaaS companies that kind of benefit. So I don't think the PE they'd be able to command is nearly as high as they should. So I think like a 50 to 70, given 30% top line, 40% bottom line. Keep in mind, if this was a SaaS company, they'd probably be commanding 80 to 100 plus. But since it's a chip company, AMD will be seen as not being able to command a crazy PE, even though the growth rates are ridiculous, right? So that puts a stock price in 2028 somewhere between $346 and about $485, which gives me a compounding annual growth rate on the low end about 26%, on the high end about 37%. It's very attractive, and I think this is a very realistic case in regards to AMD. Yeah, I think that's very realistic. Now, a bear scenario for AMD, this is not my ultra bear case, but this is my bear case. I think a bear case would be 20% revenue growth. That'd be extremely disappointing. If AMD only does 20% revenue growth, they lost. Like, let me put it as frank as that. If AMD only averages 20% revenue growth 2025 to 2028, Lisa Su and the team, they lost. That, like, with how much data center growth is and AI chip spend, gaming coming around, embedded coming around, right? The new acquisitions, ET Systems, like, I'm telling you guys, if they somehow only put up 20% on average for those 4-year span, disaster. That's why it's called a bear case, right? 30% net income growth would also be a disaster. Net income margins, 15, 16% range. So maybe they command a 40 to 60 PE. If they're growing top line 20%, bottom line 30%. So it'd be a compounding annual growth rate of 11% on the low end and 23% on the high end. So even in my bear scenario, it can still be a good moneymaker stock over the next 4 years, right? Just, it wouldn't be as exciting of a moneymaker there, right? Now, in terms of, I really wanted to cash 200 Meta shares before year end and kind of deploy some of that money into some of these lower positions. But Meta's having trouble making a year end run. We'll see what happens in December. But my hope was Meta went 700 plus and I would cash 200 shares and redeploy that elsewhere. Now, I do believe, and I think I did a video 2 days ago or 3 days ago on the main channel, speaking about Meta, I expect that stock will be $1,000 plus in either 25 or 26. And then it will double up again to 2,000 plus. That will be like 2029, 2030, in my opinion. Based upon the numbers, the valuation it should be able to command as far as P's go and those sorts of things, that would make sense. So, but yeah, I really wanted the stock to go 700 plus before year end and cash out 200 shares, but I don't know if I'm going to get it. And so if I don't get it, it's fine. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world. As far as a portfolio, maybe we hit $4 million in 2025, especially if Meta can go on another big run, right? Tesla can hold, Palantir can hold. I don't really need to get great gains from those stocks. I just need them to hold in 25. If Meta pulls through and that stock finishes 25 at $800, $900 a share, something like that, right? Or maybe close to $1,000 a share, which would be a lot of fun. Palantir and Tesla just kind of hold together. PayPal keeps running. Maybe that stock gets over the $110, $120 level in 2025. Amazon goes on a run to 250, 275. ELF comes back to that 200 range. I think we could easily be 4 million, if not 4 million plus in 2025, and then maybe getting up to 5 million plus in 2026 for the portfolio, which would be a big milestone for this portfolio overall. But definitely happy with where I'm positioned, for next year, regardless of whatever happens with the market. And so, yeah, definitely a happy camper, okay?
Hey, it's Jeremy. I hope you really enjoyed that clip here today. Listen, there are 3 main areas a long-term investor has to understand. You have to understand financial statements, income statements, balance sheets, cash flows. You have to understand and master portfolio management. And you have to have the ability to project what is possible for companies in the coming years. Bearish scenarios, bullish scenarios. All these skills can be learned, and that's the good news. And I'm still just a regular guy who's out here. I just have a lot of passion for the market. I've learned a lot over the last 15 years. I had a tremendous amount of success, and I have a dedication to teaching people everything I have learned in the past 15 years. If I can do it, you can do it too. You can learn all that's required to become a great investor in my private group. The application is going to be down there in the description area. You can click on that, fill out an application, join us in the private group, get access to all my best course curriculums, teaching you everything that I got in my head. And you get ability to join our 6-figure, 7-figure Hall of Fame. We have such a tremendous Discord. It is incredible. So once again, description area down there, there's a link. You can apply to join my private group in there.
AMD.
AMD. This is a stock I just started buying really in the past few days. And this is a position I would love to build out quite substantially over this next few months. Now, when it comes to AMD, the stock's done a whole lot of nothing this year. It's down actually 1.5% in regards to this. But regardless of however the stock's performed in the past, it really means nothing to me. All that matters for me is the future. Now, when it comes to AMD, it's very important to understand they have 4 business lines at this company. 2 are what I call major business lines, and 2 are minor business lines, okay? The first is their big dog. This is data center. Now, this is a category that has had incredible growth over the last, I would say, 10 years and really has ridiculous growth over the next 5 or 10 years. Data center in the latest quarter was $3.5 billion it did from that business line. That was up 122% year over year. And I think this is just getting started. We got a long way to climb there. Operating income of $1 billion in that segment in the latest quarter. Client segments, their next biggest category with $1.9 billion of revenue. That was up 29% year over year. Operating income in that segment was $276 million, right? Now, additionally, and so those 2 majors are going to continue to grow quite strong, specifically data center over the next several years. And that's important to understand, okay? Now, additionally, the 2 minor segments, gaming and embedded. So gaming segment, $462 million. That's their smallest business line. That was down 69% year over year. Do keep in mind, I do expect that segment to go back positive with revenue, likely in either the second quarter or third quarter of 2025. So that's something to keep in mind there. Now, additionally, the last segment AMD has is the embedded segment. This segment, $927 million in the latest quarter, $372 million of operating income. That was down about 25% year over year. That's another business line that I believe is going to inflect positive in 2025. So I believe by about middle to the back half of 2025, data center will obviously continue to increase quite dramatically, client segment as well, but additionally you'll see gaming segment inflect positive and embedded segment all inflect positive in 2025. So that's going to be very, very exciting for the company. Now, additionally, some news came out in regards to AMD back in August, and no one really paid attention to this. And the reason no one was really paying attention to this is I got to take you back to August. August in the stock market of 2024 was a time when everybody was talking about kind of macroeconomic conditions. A lot of people were talking about, is the stock market going to crash? There was a whole Japanese yen carry trade situation. And so everybody was really focused on kind of not company specific things. They were focused on the markets in general and like what's going to happen with the stock market, not what's going on with individual stocks. Big difference there, right? But meanwhile, AMD announced a big acquisition, and this is substantial for the future of AMD. AMD to significantly expand data center AI system capabilities with acquisition of hyperscale solutions provider ZT Systems. Strategic acquisition to provide AMD with industry-leading systems expertise to accelerate deployment of optimized rack-scale solutions addressing a $400 billion data center AI accelerator opportunity in 2027. Now, my opinion on why they did this deal for ZT Systems here, right, and why this was announced, is I believe they did this because they need to. Why? In order to compete with NVIDIA, you need to be a one-stop shop. A one-stop shop to really compete with NVIDIA now at this point in time. NVIDIA's done such a phenomenal job of just being like everything. They've got it all for you. They've got the hardware, they've got the software, they've got it all. And so I've watched AMD do some acquisitions here recently, and I believe these acquisitions are to position them to compete directly with NVIDIA over this next 5 to 10 years, if not 15 to 20 years out, right? Which I think is very, very brilliant in regards to Lisa Su. She's a little behind Jensen in NVIDIA, which is clear. That's why NVIDIA trades at like a $3.5 trillion market cap and AMD trades at a $200-something billion market cap. But the moral of the story is Lisa Su and the team, they're coming around here. They're just a little behind Jensen. Now, in regards to what Lisa Su had to say about this deal, she says, our acquisition of ZT Systems is the next major step in our long-term AI strategy to deliver leadership, training, and inferencing solutions that can be rapidly deployed at scale across cloud and enterprise customers. Think of all the big money, big dogs out there. Think about the big techs that all need these sorts of chips, right? ZT adds world-class systems design and rack-scale solutions expertise that will significantly strengthen our data center AI systems and customer enablement capabilities. This acquisition also builds on the investments we have made to accelerate our AI hardware and software roadmaps, combining our high-performance
Instinct AI Accelerator, EPYC CPUs, and networking product portfolios with ZT Systems' industry-leading data center systems expertise will enable AMD to deliver end-to-end data center AI infrastructure at scale with our ecosystem of OEM and ODM partners. It's just a fancy way of saying NVIDIA does everything in-house. They can get it all done. We need to be able to do the same exact thing NVIDIA does if we're really going to be able to compete with them, right? Now, that leads me to talk about Lisa Su in general. You got to understand, when you're buying this company, you're buying a company with one of the greatest CEOs in history, right? I would say she's definitely, in my opinion, probably the greatest female CEO in the history of the public markets. And just in general, if you're going to compete her against everybody, she's definitely up there. She's like one of the GOATs. When she got at AMD, you got to understand, I got to take you back there. This was like a $2 or $3 billion market cap company versus a $200 billion plus market cap company now. AMD was a joke. No one respected AMD when Lisa Su got there and after she was there for just her first year or two. No one respected this company. The stock price was under $2 shortly after she took over as the CEO of this company. Like, no one believed in it. And she made this into one of the most incredible big tech companies that I wouldn't be surprised if in the future AMD is eventually $1 trillion plus company. And to think that this company was, a lot of people thought this company was going to go bankrupt. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Back in those early days of her being CEO, it was in a bad spot, and she completely turned this show around. Insane. Now, additionally, AMD is really the only company that has any sort of competing product offering with NVIDIA. They're the only ones. They're the only ones that can really compete with NVIDIA over this next 5-10 years. And that's pretty darn special, because when you think about how big NVIDIA's opportunity is over this next 5-10 years, and then you think about AMD's like that next level up, in my opinion, of that big opportunity, woo-wee. I made a lot of money on NVIDIA stock, obviously, right? I don't own any more shares. I've sold out my position completely. Not that I think it's going to be a bad stock. It's just, I think there's better places to put money, right? And I think AMD is one of those best places to put money. Now, here might be the best part in regards to AMD. This might be the best thing of everything. The stock trades cheap. The stock trades at a 31 forward P. Now, keep in mind, AMD is probably going to smash numbers, analyst expectations in 2025. So that forward P is probably like 25 to 27 right now. But this is far too cheap for AMD. And the reason being is when you think about AMD's opportunity over this next 5-10 years, right? In regards to AI, the data center, the gaming segment coming around, right? The embedded segment. I mean, and obviously the client services business. I mean, this is an incredible opportunity with this company. And I don't think this is something that should just be overlooked by folks, because I think there's a lot of people kind of overlooking AMD right now. And I'm like, this is a company that's going to have ridiculous cash flows incoming. They're going to stack cash to the sky over this next 5 years. The question is, what do they do with all that money? They could do massive share buybacks if they want and buy a ton of their shares. If the government's a little more friendly as far as acquisitions go, they might be able to do more acquisitions, right? They're likely going to continue to push in regards to having the best chips in the world, which it seems like NVIDIA will grab the title of like the most impressive chip, but then AMD will come back and like they'll have a new chip, and it's like, whoa, this is even more impressive in this way, in this way, in this way than NVIDIA. Then NVIDIA will come back, and so those two are just going to go at it for years and years and years. But with that being said, there's an incredible opportunity there, and like I said, there's really the only two companies that are competing against each other that are respected now. Intel's just such a mess that you don't even have to worry about Intel. It's NVIDIA versus AMD, and that's really it. And you can't really come in and compete with these guys because they have the best teams, they have the best strategy right now. And as long as Jensen's leading NVIDIA and Lisa Su's leading AMD, I don't see anybody being able to come in and really compete with these guys in any substantial way. And so that's that. Now, additionally, I spoke about this company recently in this particular video I did 9 days ago. I'm buying a new stock. It has 147,000 views so far. So if you guys didn't get to check out that and you want to hear me talk much more in depth about AMD, you can definitely check that video out, right? And the last thing I'll cover in regards to AMD, is there a point where I'm not interested in buying AMD shares anymore? I would say if NVIDIA goes over 200, I'm good. If AMD goes over 200, I'm good. If AMD goes to 175, I'll probably start slowing down my buys. But if it goes over 200, that's probably a level that I'm just like, I'm good with whatever I have at that particular time, and that will be that. And then I'm going to see how the company develops and how the numbers start to come in 2025, 2026. And then I'll figure out, like, what do I want to do with the position? Do I want to cash some shares after that point in time? Do I want to continue to roll? But yeah, I think the stock should be very fun over this next 24 months. We'll see what happens with that. But I think it's going to be a very, very fun time.